Day 16, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart Brno. Live Jesus. 1825 to 1903. Foundress of the Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Chapter 8. Day 16. Trials and Blessings. When a soul is generous in its love, God is pleased to test it, nourishing it with the bitter bread of sacrifice. Along its path, He multiplies occasions of suffering, certainly, but also, and above all, occasions of merit and victory. Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart was one of those souls eager for sacrifice, because she was entirely consumed by love. While allowing her to suffer in her body and in the affections of a heart as ardent as it was sensitive, God also touched the deepest recesses of her soul and gradually led her up the steep slopes of a difficult Calvary. It is undeniable that, at certain moments of her life, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart received precious expressions of esteem and benevolence from prominent figures within the Church. Yet it is equally true that few were more contradicted, misunderstood, disregarded, and painfully humiliated than she during the years when a powerful wind of opposition seemed to rise against the work. It was part of the designs of divine providence that these intimate and profound sufferings should serve as a counterbalance to the abundant graces she had received. Moreover, for souls whom God calls to follow Him more closely, triumph is often only the prelude to the Passion. Then comes the agony of Calvary. Of all this, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart would have painful experiences on many occasions. The first contradictions. The rapid expansion of the Guard of Honor became for her the first occasion of great trials. The increasingly frequent contact that she necessarily had to maintain with the outside world caused concern among some of the superiors, who were zealous to preserve within their monasteries the spirit and observance of the Holy Rule. In a circular addressed to the Mothers of the Order, Mother Mary Amata expressed these concerns at length. We would have rejoiced had the dial remained, like the one at Paris, within the enclosure. We are not permitted to oppose what Providence has accomplished. Nevertheless, the extraordinary expansion of this pious association in honor of the Sacred Heart, while filling our soul with joy, has also caused us concern because of the communications with the outside world, which will necessarily continue to multiply. Bishop de Langellerie, our holy prelate, has likewise been concerned about this and would willingly have sacrificed the work rather than see us depart, even in the slightest degree, from the spirit of our institute. His Excellency has raised no objection to approving the measures we have taken to considerably reduce correspondence and relations with the outside world. What a contrast between the restraint of these words and the pious emotion overflowing from the pages devoted to the Guard of Honor in the final circular of Mother Mary Julia Colette. Even the name of Guard of Honor became the subject of lively discussion, as we shall see later. A true hour of darkness had come upon the work. Contradictions seemed to rise against both the work and its foundress. Some believed themselves entitled to judge her, discredit her, and even dismiss her as a visionary. Without any real foundation, numerous prejudices rose against her. Attempts were even made to discredit her in the eyes of some of her closest friends. Who could describe the intense suffering those piercing thorns caused in the sensitive heart of the humble Visitation nun? Yet Sister Mary allowed them to penetrate deeply into her soul without complaint. Convinced that the guard of honor will ultimately triumph over every obstacle when the hour appointed by the Lord in His divine designs had come. For me, to live is Christ. In the midst of these trials, God desired to lead her still further along the path of perfection. In September 1866, she had just begun her spiritual retreat when one day she found herself filled with profound peace. Several notes written in a notebook revealed the dispositions of her soul. To sacrifice everything to the will of God, manifested through obedience, even the interest of the glory of the Sacred Heart. It is more than my life, but for me, to live is Christ. God was preparing her for another sacrifice. Indeed, on the fourth day of that retreat, which until then had been so consoling, her superior, Mother Mary Amara, summoned her to her room. She informed Sister Mary of the serious concerns that had arisen regarding her interior life and asked her to explain herself fully to the Reverend Father who was preaching the retreat. No sooner had Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart received this instruction than she carried it out with the simplicity and docility of a child. What exactly occurred during that meeting? It would be difficult to determine. What we do know is that before the retreat ended, Sister Mary had pronounced a heroic and painful fiat. She made a complete sacrifice of the guard of honor, of the souls with whom she corresponded, and even of her most intimate interior dispositions. Before the priest, she pronounced her own consummatum est. She completed that retreat with her heart and soul filled with profound gratitude to her God and filial appreciation for the priest who had in turn become an instrument of divine mercy. She subsequently maintained correspondence with him. On one occasion, she even received from him a particularly mortifying letter in which he treated her with extraordinary severity and seemed to regard her as nothing more than a poor imitation of Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque. 4 pages were written in this severe tone. Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart kept that letter as though it were a precious relic. Far from hiding it, she allowed it to become known, so that practically none of the sisters remained unaware of its contents. She wrote, "Jesus humbles me before those whom I esteem most. Nevertheless, I live in peace, but alone upon my Calvary. Alone, with my hands and heart pierced, without any sweetness, without the slightest shadow of consolation. Since for me to live is Christ, my life must be, like His, a perpetual immolation." The offering as a victim. Filled with these sentiments, on June 24th, 1870, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart made what she herself called her official offering as a voluntary victim. She desired to seal this surrender in an extraordinarily meaningful way. She signed the act of her total self-offering to God with her own blood. In it, she wrote, "My God, may my self-abasement proclaim the fullness of your being, my humiliations, your greatness, my nothingness, your all. O Mary, Mother of the priest, priestly virgin and victim, deign yourself to offer me to the adorable Trinity. Prepare me for sacrifice as you prepared and nourished for immolation the most gentle Lamb of God. With your maternal care, sustain me in my vocation as a victim, and with your tender compassion, accompany me along the road and to the summit of Calvary. Finally, immolate me yourself for the glory of God, as you offered upon the altar of the cross the Son of your love and of your sorrows. My God, in the midst of serene joy, I contemplate the consequences of my sacrifice. A victim is offered only to be immolated. Therefore, I accept and bless beforehand all your designs concerning me. I abandon myself with filial confidence to your paternal providence, and I reject every resistance that my nature might oppose to your work of purification within me. What an echo such abandonment, inspired by boundless love, must have found within the heart of Jesus. And how many graces must they have drawn upon this soul who desired to belong entirely to him. Reading these pages, one cannot help but recall those words of Bishop Charles Gay, which have sustained and encouraged so many souls. Even if iniquity, increasing day by day, were to cause God to turn his gaze away from the earth, if he nevertheless found one soul, only one, truly united to the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, God would once again turn his gaze toward the earth, bless it, delight in it, and continue to labor for the salvation of souls. Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart was thus beginning to understand, with ever greater depth, that the fruitfulness of the Guard of Honor would not depend solely upon her writings, its organization, or its extraordinary expansion. The work was also destined to grow, and perhaps above all, at the foot of the cross. For this humble Visitation nun, loving the Sacred Heart meant more than simply laboring to make him known and loved. It also meant being willing to offer herself with him, to accept humiliation in peace, to remain faithful in the midst of contradiction, and even in darkness, to continue repeating, "For me, to live is Christ." God be blessed.